This is the Wheelhouse podcast. So much to get through as we get through another week that was in the cycling world. Perth is in the mix for the Aussie Nationals. How does the Australian cycling community feel about it? The saga of Sagan continues. Merxie's excited about that much, can assure you. The cycling economy, what is it? Who does it? And what impact does it have? We're going to find you some answers to that. And a legitimately controversial documentary just around the corner. We're going to dive into that as well. My name's Joel Spreadborough. Joining me now, I love this today because we are coming to you from the bunker. I'm here in the bunker. Merxie's here in the bunker within the bunker. And Catherine Bates is in the bunker that's not quite the bunker but is still a bunker. Hello, Kate.
Yes, Batesy's got a Sydney bunker. We've upgraded a little bit, but I had to travel, so I've got my mobile bunker. It's got like inflatable, like think about it like a little jumping castle.
Like your inflatable ice bath.
Yeah.
But a bunker.
yeah, exactly. So I could still be in the bunker. Can I say Merxie's done a beautiful job of making it look very natural, au naturale.
Merxie
on the wide shot.
Always does a beautiful job. I wonder if this bunker makes you as cold and as regretful as your ice bath bunker, given that they're so similar in design.
No, and I don't know. It's probably just as therapeutic. Can I say that?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening, sharing, liking, and subscribing. And hello to our friends at bikebug.com as well. Let's jump straight into it, Catherine. So Perth is in the mix for the Nationals. Now, when sport goes west, it's always interesting in Australia because you could almost draw a lovely little divide right down the middle of the country, and that's basically where everyone sits in it. If you're west of that line, you love it. If you're east of that line or south, north of that line or wherever else, you're going, why the F are we going there? So what's happening and why has everyone got the, what do you say, the panties in a wad over it?
Panties in a wad, yes. Knickers in a knot. And you've heard me say on this show before, the West is the best. When I've said that, I have been referring to Western Sydney, where I grew up. But I think in this case, a lot of people are saying the West is the best, as in the Democratic Republic of Western Australia, of course, as we got used to calling it, in the bad old COVID days. But seriously, Joel, what they're talking about is moving the Road National Championships that have been in Ballarat for a whopping 18 years. They're talking about moving it to different locations to mix it up. Naturally, everybody always complains about Ballarat in some form, change it up.
Yeah.
But I think the reality of changing it up is probably more divisive than Mount Buninyong itself. So Perth, it looks like it's come into the mix, and we know this, and this is the cool bit. Matt Deneef at the Escape Collective, they've found through information publicly available through council records that Perth Council has signed off on provisional funding for the event for a 3-year period, in a bit of an if this then that scenario of all of these other things have to fall into place. But a bit of a Wheelhouse exclusive here, Joel. What I did was I slid into the DMs of the Mayor of Perth, Basil Zempilas, and anybody who is an AFL fan will know Basil because he's, quite a famous commentator and caller. And in fact, he commentated the women's mountain bike at the Olympics in 2016 from memory. So, he's a fan of the cycling community. Anyway, I slid into his DMs and I said, Baz, what's the go with this? What's the head up? I sent him the article, and his reply, Joel, was, I don't know anything about it. And I'll look into it for you. I'm not saying that this isn't a real thing, but, I'm not aware of it. So that's interesting. He did tell me that when he found out some more info, he'd come back to us, but perhaps it's the rumour mill heating up more than anything, but it's been enough to get people a little bit cranky.
I'm curious. So, we love you, Baz, friend of the show. When's he hopefully coming on soon? But the whole, I don't know anything about something that's been provisionally funded right under my nose is interesting. Merxie has a thought from the bunker inside the bunker.
Is it like when they say, the NRL Grand Final's moving away from Sydney and they just want to push the price up?
Just to push it up.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's possible. And I think that why everybody's kind of cranky is the interesting point. And it's because all of the East Coasters, as you alluded to in your opening soliloquy, Joel, they don't want to go all the way west. They're saying the time, the cost of it, like they're saying around Tour Down Under, Cadell's, all of these races that are on the East Coast at that time of year, the summer of cycling, throwing a race in Perth would just, throw a cat amongst the pigeons, essentially. But then, of course, what you're getting is the very strong WA cycling community coming out saying, oi, we have to hoik it all the way over east every summer, like our time has come. And I understand that argument, to be honest. If we consider that Western Australia has produced the likes of Hindley and Glutzy O'Connor, Sam Wellsford, Jessica Allen in the women, so many more names, because they really are a talent factory over there. There is an element where they kind of deserve the fans over there, the community over there, to have some big events. It would be a great event. I'm just not sure if we'd get the same participation from the athletes, and certainly it would be a big financial, drain potentially on more athletes traveling over there versus the smaller that just come from WA. But you know what? I think that we do need to mix it up a little bit. And I think if it is a national sport, I think it is hard for WA. They're always kind of over there, a 5-hour flight away.
We've got some incredible athletes, obviously the O'Connors of the world. Glutzy, good evening to you. I know you're out there listening and sharing and subscribing. Jai as well. A great chance to represent and grow the sport even more over there, because it is often, and if you're people from the West, it's like we are treated like a sporting outpost. And the thing is, not just cycling, but other sports have got markets over there. They genuinely do. AFL obviously has 2 teams there. The NRL has had teams there before. Let's not forget Western Australian cricket has produced some of our finest test exports in the men's and women's game. So there's merit to going there. I get it, though, when it comes to time zones, when it comes to things like coverage and being able to sort of stay in track, and that all-important travel consideration, especially for some of the bigger riders that are looking to, not physically bigger, but bigger profile riders that are looking to get involved in a massive, massive season on, well, there's so many considerations and considerations as well to be made around it. Merksy.
They've got gravel worlds in WA in 2026.
Okay.
Yeah.
The path
and
west
they have
is being
they have
forged.
some big gravel racing and qualifications for World Grand Fondo and such. So they know is that people, if they're going to complain about money, perhaps Oz Cycling, with the sponsorship that it draws and with the potential for new markets over there, and I'm looking squarely at the mining industry here, potentially, why not travel subsidies for the athletes from the East Coast, and then when the Nationals are on the East Coast, travel subsidies for the athletes from the West, and kind of take a bit of that cost out of the equation. The other thing I would say is there needs to be an event, guys, a grand event to unveil Glutzy's statue. So why can't we tie this all in?
Yes.
And have, a grand unveiling.
We'll celebrate
Basil,
the achievements,
the mayor, who said maybe. He didn't say no, is what I'm saying. We pitched it to him and he didn't say no.
Okay.
I'll leave that one hang in the air.
We'll find out, Kate. You said soliloquy before, which was accurate, but I have actually composed a limerick as well for it. So if you don't mind, can you just give me a little 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3,
1,
4.
2, 1,
Take the
2.
blokes to the west. Riders there think it is the best. Time zones aside, we hop on and ride. Who can cares for the thoughts of the rest? That's my limerick for the West. Merksy, please don't leave it in. No, do leave it in. We'll see how we go. It might help the campaign with Basil. But that's essentially what it is. It's like, give us a go. Give us a go. And I like what Merksy said there, because there's a little drip feed west going to the west already with gravel. There's massive riders doing massive things, chance to showcase and celebrate. And a lot of people saying, Ballarat, we love it. It's beautiful, but maybe time to move on.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll see as it plays out, hey, because the other one they put on the cards, and they're talking about, of course, is Sunshine Coast around, test events for the Olympics. But then somebody rightly points out that it's peak holiday season, and it would be pretty difficult to close a lot of the roads and have a big event in a beach holiday area.
Yeah.
Peak school holiday time. So,
Or the
that
locals
makes
will
that seem less likely.
absolutely love it. The locals will be absolutely cheering when
Yeah.
that already 45-minute, 2-kilometre morning commute triples or is not possible at all. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll follow it. What a saga. Speaking of sagas, a big reveal during the week from the inexorable Peter Sagan. Merksy, I hope you're listening because you'll be very excited by this. That it's not. It's a long way from over when it comes to Sagan. Here he is.
He's rereading his Sagan book. He's nicked it off the desk and he's taken it into the bunker in a bunker. I think that Peter Sagan, given the publicity that he generates, he will always be in the news in some way, shape, or form. But it turns out that he has joined a road team for next year, albeit a small Slovakian one. It's called Pierre Baguette. So there you go. Not necessarily the name of a team we would say is Slovakian, but so you have it, and it makes me quite hungry, to be honest. Give me a baguette any day. Now, he's racing with his brother is the DS, and what his manager has come out and said is that there is no big road comeback. He just needs a series of races to prepare for the mountain bike for the Olympics, and this is the best way to do it. So I don't think anybody should get too excited. I'm sorry, Merksy. I think the most action you'll see from Peto is probably still in that book. But, he's just the guy that keeps on giving to the sport. He's like the ultimate genre jumper, isn't he, for what he's been able to achieve. And so I think any time that we potentially get to see him in action is a great thing.
Really, 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 really well said. I have another limerick.
Oh, heavens. Here we go.
Today.
Okay.
Okay.
Go.
It's on again for Peter Sagan. Back on the bike once Argan. He'll never give up. He's too bloody tough and does nothing for a bargain. So I'm talking scratch. What do you reckon, Merksy? Is it worth his while? He's got the resort. It's doing well, but a little bit of extra cash always helps.
I think we don't do any more limericks. That's what I think.
Two and done.
I think that, I had a disastrous segment, if we can remember, a few weeks ago when I did an astrology segment. That never came back.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that maybe the limericks moved to the cutting room floor.
We'll see.
It's nice to try
the
new
astrology.
things.
It is. It's also live. I'll do what I want. Now, let's move on. It's the Wheelhouse podcast. WTF UCI. Now, I love this, Catherine, because you've got some momentum happening with this segment. But the good thing about this is that the UCI, on a weekly basis, gives you the momentum with increasingly ludicrous decisions. Now, they need to pull their socks up, quite literally, this week. What do you got?
No, Joel, the issue is people are pulling their socks up too high. This is the stuff that literally writes itself. Last week on the show, we were having a little bit of a chat at the expense of the UCI about bikes, £55,000 bikes that the UCI were kind of leaving to slip into their regulations, even though they seem to really contravene them.
We've ordered 2 for the bunker, by the way. They're going to hang on the wall
and
here.
let's see if they arrive.
Yes.
So we thought that was ridiculous. And literally that afternoon, it dropped that the UCI have updated their tech regulations around clothing. So what they are going to do is they are increasing the paid penalties. They've got stricter penalties for socks that are too high, up to 2,000 Swiss francs, which is about $3,000 Aussie. And that might seem ridiculous, but it's about aerodynamics.
Yes.
And if you think back to Kathy Freeman at the Sydney Olympics, or you follow the swimming where some of those suits were banned, it is a real thing. And I can tell you, I was in the Champ Sis office yesterday looking at our beautiful kit, Joel. We need to order some new stuff for this summer. And the amount of research and development that goes into these fabrics is mind-blowing. So it is a legitimate thing that they do need to, consider the impact of this. But I think one of the issues with the UCI is that we get into this debate where we say, oh, they're not doing anything about the bike, but they will do something about the socks. So what I posit to you, Joel,
Yes.
is why does it have to be one or the other? Why can't they just do both?
Why can't they do
the
both?
sock height is legitimate and the bike is legitimate, why can't they just achieve both within one set of technical regulations?
Porque no los dos. Fair enough. Merxy has a comment on this.
Katie, why francs? Why Swiss francs?
Yeah, why
What's
francs?
that about?
Why the
Swiss
currency?
francs.
Oh, good question. Because the UCI is domiciled and they actually physically exist in Switzerland. So in Hague is where their headquarters are, and so all of the fines are in Swiss francs.
Okay. If
So
you're an
there you
Australian
go.
cyclist, do you have the right to appeal and say, no, I'll pay you Aussie dollars?
Well, yes, they do translate it to Aussie dollars, I think. But also that means that the regulations are written in French and then translated into English. And I think sometimes that can cause a bit of an issue. And, I love my regulation book, guys. So what I've found here, and this is regulation 1.3.033, all right? And so I'm going to read you the sock height regulation. And I think that if you're really able to translate this very well, you're better than I am. Right. Socks and overshoes may not rise above the height of mid-distance between middle lateral malleolus and the middle of your femoral head.
Hang on. You're what? You're malmeningerus.
Your middle lateral malleolus. And if you look down to your ankle and there's a bone that's kind of sticky outy on the side.
Oh, that's
like
the
that's
malleolus.
what your lateral malleolus is. But they will get a tape measure and go from one to the other. And the midpoint is where your socks can be. Because, of course, they can't say like 20 centimeters because on some legs that'll be up to knees and others that'll be much lower. So
that is not what I thought a malleolus was, let me tell you.
No.
Malleolus, yes.
Well, hey, what did you think it was, Merxy?
No. Moving on.
It sounds like some sort of topical balm. Here, try a bit of malleolus cream.
Your lateral malleolus is covered,
okay,
but not your femoral head. So there you go.
Oh, look, they're serious about these rules. I remember, Rainbows Van Vloten 2022, of course. Congratulations, you absolute champion. We love you. What a superhuman effort. By the way, your socks are too high. You're fined.
Yes.
That's what they do. Okay. Big ones.
So they've done it before. They'll do it again. They've also said if you remove your helmet in a race at all, you can now potentially get disqualified completely from the race. And we'll call that the Lulu rule because Julien Alaphilippe, of course, he famously took his helmet off in order to change some clothing and remove some clothing when it had warmed up. And he got very heavily fined and penalised. And Patrick Lefevre had a little bit of it. Well, he had his knickers in a knot, I can tell you that from that one. But the UCI has not backed down on that. In fact, they've gone harder. So keep your lid on your head, fellas and ladies.
Lids
all of
on.
you.
Okay. Yeah.
Lids
I mean,
on.
it'll be interesting, the impact on cyclists, I suppose, how this reflects their choices moving forward as well. And that extra little bit of, race stress to deal with. But there's an argument. There's important science behind it, like you say, aerodynamics, and we've seen those advantages. And they only have to be very small to be significant, of course. One to watch, but clothing compliance. Do you think the essence of the sport is stymied by these regulatory measures, or is this 1.0333033 regarding the malleolus is a good one?
If you can make a limerick that includes the word malleolus, I'll be very impressed.
I would have, but you banned them. So
banned.
You guys miss out on that. That's
totally
that's
banned.
your choice.
I won't encourage you anymore. I do think that there's a degree, like you understand it because there is a clear advantage to it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, fabrics and that's pretty, that's pretty accessible technology. So I don't really see the point in restricting things that advance the sport if everybody has access to it. I understand the bike tech and such because, there's going to be a lot of countries that don't have access to 55,000 pound bikes, Australia included, by the way. So, but socks, skin suits, I'm not sold on that.
Not sold?
Yeah. No, I'm not sold.
What's a femoral head?
The femoral head is the head of your femur.
Femoral head, okay.
Is it your knee?
your femur is your like the big leg bone.
Yeah.
Right, so the
Yes.
bit
So
where
it's
it goes into your knee.
essentially your knee.
Yeah, you know.
So they could just say your knee.
Yeah, they could.
Or,
Yep.
yeah, no.
But it's the UCI,
let's
so
get
they
technical.
won't.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Yeah.
Look, I'm all for covering the malleolus.
Yeah.
Protecting the malleolus must be a priority
keep the
for all
malleolus
cyclists.
covered up.
Yeah. Okay, it's called the malleolus. Didn't know what it was till you told us. Oh, that's right. Sorry, we're not allowed to do limericks anymore. No worries at all. Interesting one to watch. I think WTF UCI, as you say, it's the gift that keeps on giving, and something they're going to keep pushing. It'll be good, interesting to see the impact. Now, let's turn now to the economy, and I mean that quite literally. I'm not even doing a thing here. We're talking about the cycling economy, Catherine, and I think some really, really positive news as far as people embracing the sport and the sport's benefits, not just on our own health, but on our wallets, on the broader community. This is a very cool report, and I just want to throw out a number at you because I know you love your numbers. You crunch
I
numbers.
I do. I'm a numbers lady.
$16.9 billion.
That is, according to this report from EY commissioned by We Ride Australia, that is what cycling contributes to the Australian economy, not the world economy, the Australian economy.
Yeah.
16.9 billion. I got to say, it's bigger than I thought. I did not, I'm a big advocate and I have seen the power of cycling in so many aspects that it does add to the economy from health to active transport to climate change. There's so many facets of it.
Yeah.
But 16.9 billion is a huge number. And here's one I saw as well, Joel. 33% of the adult population in Australia, so roughly 6.9 million Australian adults, are engaged in cycling in some regard. That's bigger than I thought.
That is
the
bigger
only
than
reason
I
thought it was anywhere near that number is just the sheer number of viewers we have. That tipped us off to how popular cycling is in Australia.
Yeah, 6.5 million of them, every single one of them tuning into the Wheelhouse podcast. Hello, Merksy.
Just so you know, it's just under 10 billion Swiss francs.
Yeah.
Oh,
just as a conversion.
Excellent.
Thank you, mate. That's good to know for the UCI. But I love this. We always talk about environmental impact, but cycling replacing 3.9 billion kilometres of motor vehicle travel. That's 500,000 tonnes of emissions as well. And that we've been on about that message all the time. But it's like these are raw figures from We Ride Australia, as you say. I'm interested in job creation. There's almost 60,000 jobs created, which I find really interesting across the board. I'd love to learn more about that and what the jobs are specifically. But you don't just release a survey like this, willy-nilly. Go, let's throw out a number. I got one. How about 16.9 billion? That'll do. They've crunched the numbers.
No,
and
they don't.
They're exciting. They really are. I love the material contribution of almost $2 billion cycling tourism, and we've seen it. And fortunately enough, here on the Wheelhouse, we've been able to enjoy it. We've been able to enjoy it in beautiful places like Wollongong, Adelaide, and of course the Anna Meares Velodrome. So that's, it's really, really good to see.
It is. And it's interesting that in the study, which surveyed a lot of people, they didn't just pluck these numbers out of the air. But the biggest reason for people participating in cycling was health and fitness, and which I love because there is a real connect with active transport and using it as a mode of transport, and we need to do that. But if it's only a mode of transport and people aren't enjoying it from a health and fitness, and we're also talking emotional and mental health, so not just physical, then the buy-in will be harder. It'll be harder to keep the continuity of the benefits for active transport if people aren't also really feeling the vibes, let's say that, feeling the vibes around it. But it was disturbing to note that 64% of people who responded felt unsafe on the roads with traffic, and noting that there's not a lot of places in Australia that have significant separated bike lanes. So we don't count bike lanes that are on the road because we often see cars parking in them or driving in them,
we sure do.
But completely separated. We don't have a lot of that infrastructure. And so 64% is pretty concerning.
It is, and we've spoken about this before. As far as deterrents go, we had, of course, a study from the University of Melbourne talking about, I guess, some of the perceptions around cycling and it being a bit elite and it being a bit tricky to get into, and that combine that with the safety concern, it can be a little bit daunting. What I also liked were, you said road safety, weather is a huge one. They've left out magpies. Magpies, I think, should be right at the top of that list as well, because huge deterrent in that part of the year.
They certainly are. Nothing, some straps in your helmet can't fix though, Joel, right?
Well, I don't have a helmet that covers the side of my face, and the last magpie that had a crack at me was absolutely determined to take a chunk of cheekbone for his or her efforts. So, yeah, we'll see. Look, I think it's great. I think the scope of this study, it reflects the growth. It reflects the recognition of cycling as something that's beneficial, obviously physically, but so importantly in this crazy era, mentally as well. And that's hopefully something that more people can see, subscribe to. The infrastructure thing is massive. We've been banging on about it a lot. Everyone that is in the know, especially this part of the world leading up to Olympics and stuff, this is such a good opportunity to make wholesale improvements to that, to get more people up on bikes, riding, and encouraging others to do so. We've got, of course, I want to mention Chicks Who Ride Bikes. We've got initiatives like that as well that are enabling and including people. So if the government can meet us there, these numbers are going to get even better. And we will be celebrating that because we don't only exist to shit-can the UCI. We love celebrating all that's good about the sport as well. And when it's domestic and it's special like this, I say triple thumbs up.
Yeah, I agree. It's a real call to action, isn't it, from policymakers and from the public to really embrace the power of what cycling can bring. One of my pet hates, Joel, is that when people call cycling niche and they go, it's such a niche sport. I'm sorry. A third of all adults engage in cycling, $16.9 billion to the economy. I don't use the word niche for $16.9 billion economy. And so I think that we just need to use a terrible pun, to match your limerick. We need to link the chain a bit better around all of this, Joel. And I think that we can really see some positive change if we move away from the sentiment of almost default not liking cyclists on the road.
Yeah,
that's the default position. If we can shove that to the side and just see all the benefits, then I reckon we're on a winner. And We Ride Australia reckon we're on a winner too.
Well said. Merksy, a comment from you?
I just find it amazing that all these little e-scooters zipping around the cities are, getting more action than bike riders ever have. That's my comment.
Getting more action.
Getting more attention,
more funding, despite emergency wards being overflowing with people that are doing themselves some pretty nasty injuries on those as well. I love, when you're walking along the riverside and you see them tossed into the river as well. So, a lot of angles on that one. Very interesting. But look, we love to celebrate cycling, so it's really, really, really good to see. I wish I could do a limerick about it, but I can't. That's all right. Your pun was better than both of my lyrics, by the way, so that's okay.
Thank you. I
also want to mention, as far as niche goes, I'm going to mention Sisters of the Saddle and organisations. Sisters of the Saddle and organisations such as that, who are raising vast sums of money supporting incredible causes. Are they doing that with a niche sport? Are they attracting the support they are with niche? No.
The Tour Down Under, the Brisbane Cycling Festival, there's a lot of governments that are really getting involved in not just the elite side of cycling, but the festival around it. And so, let that be the talking point.
Indeed. Anyone that says it's a niche sport, get into this bunker, we'll eat you for breakfast. Speaking of breakfast, what a convenient segue, Catherine. What'd you have for brekkie this morning?
You're on fire. Look, I am actually not a big breakfast person. I've got to put that out there. I don't think I'm the only one that doesn't enjoy a good breakfast. But when I raced, I think it's probably because when I raced, you almost had to force breakfast down your throat, even if you weren't that hungry. And I've had more pasta breakfast, Joel, than you could probably get your head around.
Okay.
It was not one of my favourite things.
No wonder you don't like it anymore.
Well, but you know what I do love?
Yeah.
I love breakfast food. And I believe that the way to choose a cafe is, do they have an all-day breakfast menu? And if the answer is no, I'm not into it. You see, so I like my breakfast food, just not at breakfast. So if I was going to have a breakfast food, and I think that's probably where the question was going, guilty avo on toast.
Avo on toast, I like it very much. My beautiful wife Lee is there with you on the all-day breakfast menu. I think many in the bike community are big advocates of an Eggs Benedict whenever the guy want one, basically.
Oh, Merksy, if he can get a gluten-free Eggs Benedict, I tell you what, he'll, shove people out of the way to get there.
Or a muffin. I love a muffin.
Hates a muffin.
Or
Loves a
Loves
muffin.
a good muffin.
I remember being in Wollongong and going on a frantic search to get Merksy some breakfast food, but the GF options were a bit thin on the ground. And I remember rocking back up to the media centre where we were working and saying, "Here you go, mate, I got you a big bag of trail mix." And him going, "Thanks so much."
you.
I love a bagel too. GF bagel.
Good to know. Oh, hang on, I'll write that down for the next Worlds. Cool, okay. We'll get in early on that. But anyway, the reason for the topic, endurance athletes, we talk about this, fueling is obviously right. Getting the right balance, the right amount of carbs, protein, energy is absolutely crucial. So there's some unorthodox breakfast choices on the table. You've alluded to one beautifully there, eating pasta for breakfast. I can't think of a time I would have done that other than when I was, 23, 24, living in Bondi and only having pasta in the cupboard at most of the time. And by pasta, I mean 2-minute noodles, of course, and that being the thing. I wasn't thinking about winning Grand Tours or world titles or anything like that. But Remco Evenepoel, he's the guy we're talking about. I think he gives your pasta a little bit of a shake with his breakfast layout, Kate.
He does. It doesn't start unconventional. He has these little Belgian bread rolls and he whacks some jam and honey and banana and yum. Like, I'm on board so far, right?
Yeah.
He then combines it with some poached chicken. Again, poached chicken in the mornings, maybe a little bit unconventional, but we
Poached
can't
chicken?
argue that that's not pretty delicious.
Yeah, sure.
Poached chicken. Yeah. And you know what? Great for the protein. You need the protein, you need the carbohydrates, like
Okay.
tick, right?
Yeah.
This is where he diverts a little bit. Now, some people might go, oh, a little bit of orange juice, wash it all down. That's pretty good. Not Remco. He's not he does a world champion effort in everything he does.
Mm-hmm.
Joel, he knocks back a litre of Fanta, orange Fanta. You heard it right.
Like
A
full
litre
strength Fanta.
of orange Fanta.
Oh.
Yep. And it's now his almost superstition because he had it early on in his career and he was successful in the time trial. And now that's his go-to time trial breakfast. But bearing in mind that sometimes time trials are early in the day and the golden breakfast rule that still holds true, I understand, is that you have to eat 3 hours before you race. And that's why a lot of people hate races, the World Tour, if they start at 8 a.m. or something, because it means that they're eating pasta at 5 a.m. Not Remco. He's drinking Fanta at 5 a.m. So it's a little bit curious.
It is a little bit curious. I know that he's been speaking recently about the threat that he faces, especially in time trialling. I wonder if his Fanta intake, if he's upped it, but no, he hasn't. He said he's been doing it for years. And interestingly, he says, since I've been eating this, since I've been eating my, my orthodox lovely rolls, my, chicken and my 400 gallons of Fanta every morning, I've almost never fell off the podium in TTs. So if it ain't broke.
I think this should come with a don't try this at home kind of warning.
Yeah.
Like a litre of Fanta, it's not insignificant.
No.
But I will point out that he's not the only athlete to have some peculiar eating habits.
Yeah.
And Aussie Ryan Bailey, he won 2 Olympic gold medals in Athens in the sprint and the Kieran, and flying Ray. He was very well known at the time, and I can confirm this because I was a teammate, for eating KFC and Coke exclusively. I'm not even just talking about breakfast on the day of racing. That was it. That was his entire diet.
Oh, really?
Balanced, it was not, but it seemed to work for him. And they tried to get him to eat other food, and he had kind of gastro issues and struggled with it, and was not too pumped with the change.
Yeah.
Went back. If KFC wasn't around, then he went for the fried chicken because it didn't need to be specifically KFC.
Okay.
Or chips or something like that. 2 Olympic gold medals.
Yeah, Merksy.
Kate, you've got a funny story about Coca-Cola that wasn't caffeinated, yeah?
Oh yeah, I do. At the Amstel Gold Race, it was my first year as a pro, actually, guys, and I was in a breakaway with the Olympic champion Leontin van Moorsel at the time, and Miriam Melkers, who was the world #1 ranked rider, and then there was me, 18-year-old Aussie, doing literally first race in Europe for a little Dutch team. And I think because I was naive in my first, what is now classic, the Amstel Gold Race, I went in a long breakaway all day with them, not really realizing that I was making a pretty big step. Anyway, with about 20K to go, I was completely done, completely out of energy. And I dropped back to my team car and I begged for a Coke. I just needed anything. I needed sugar, I needed caffeine. And they put it in a bottle for me and they gave it to me. And I do remember thinking, this tastes like I wanted the satisfaction of a sugary Coke. Didn't quite taste like that. In cycling world, they call it the Black Doctor because of, people hang on to it in desperate need toward the end of races.
Yeah.
Anyway, I got third out of 3 people. So it didn't necessarily work. Not only did I get third, it wasn't even in a sprint. They both pretty much just rode away from me in the closing. They got out of their seat and I couldn't even. And at the end, I said to my director, yeah, I thought the Coke would help more than that. To which she confessed she had handed me a diet caffeine-free Coke.
Oh, so it didn't have the 2 things that you wanted weren't present.
No, they were not present. And so that kind of, yeah. I won't say that it ruined my Amstel Gold Race because I had no hope of beating those pair anyway. But, I can hang on to that.
Yeah, I'd back you.
We'll never know.
We will never know.
I'll tell you what, though, there are some unorthodox meal choices in the world of sport. I want to point out a couple because I always sat back and drank in the antics of Dennis Rodman in the NBA, of course, a multiple champion with the Chicago Bulls and a tough guy for the Detroit Pistons before that, and just an all-round character, let's just say a theatrical character of world sport, and was famous for living at large, let's just say, unconventional lifestyle and a bit of a strange diet. And once he said, you know what I eat before games? Hot dogs. And he wasn't kidding. He absolutely had hot dogs. Not recommended for most athletes, but it absolutely worked for Rodman. So I
diggity
guess
damn.
It's up there with KFC.
I know,
like,
I mean, I know Usain Bolt. He was a chicken nugget guy, wasn't he?
he had nuggets before he won in Beijing. That was his race
See, there you go.
Whew.
And the marathoner Paula Radcliffe, she was a pizza girl. She hoed into a good pizza to get a race ready. So, I think if you hit the carbohydrates and the proteins and the sugars, then, it might not be perfect, but it's certainly better than not eating.
Well, I'm actually, I'm surprised. I'm very surprised Remco doesn't indulge in pizza as well, given his long history as a Pizza Hut marquee man. But anyway, that's okay.
Hold on. Are we just looking at potentially like a PR stunt here?
I think
is
we might
Fanta
be.
a sponsor?
It could be.
Given his background with pizza.
Ooh.
Curious.
The Remco
Not to be
meal.
too cynical, but, let's see.
Yeah, okay. Well, that could work. We'll get in touch. We'll slide into their DMs on the Wheelhouse podcast. We're talking about food, really. But let's move on to stoushes now, because there's been not really stoush, but just an amusing exchange in the Twitterverse that caught your ear. I was going to say caught your eel. Anyway, it caught your ear as well as your eel. Sarah Ann Egan asked a question, and I think it's a pertinent question. We were talking before about people getting involved in cycling and whatnot, and that might involve being part of a group that cycles on a weekend, getting together, going for a group. So you want to know that you enjoy being part of the group, you're comfortable, you feel supported, you get on with people. So this is a question I like. Sarah Ann Egan asked on Twitter, what is the one thing you would ask a cyclist to leave your group ride for, Kate?
Like, what's the thing you could do? And she's from the Roadman Cycling podcast. She always asks really cool questions and gets a barrage of interesting responses. Now, this one had over 50 responses, and there are some categories, let's say. Now, the popular categories is if you turn up to a group ride without a helmet, you're out. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty strong one. Another one, pretty strong theme, was if your snot rockets are misdirected and you become a serial snotter on people, you're out. People don't like that.
People do that in group rides?
Yeah. They move to the side and, put a finger on the nostril and off you go.
This is why I go solo.
So, yeah, that was also an unpopular one. Another one that jumped up, which I thought was quite funny and seemed almost a little bit petty, was anybody suggesting that the ride be shorter.
Yeah.
So if consensus was like, let's do the 50-mile loop, and somebody was like, oh, let's do the 40-mile one, like, out. Sorry.
Yeah, see you later.
Not into it. Go on another ride. So there were some pretty funny ones. I caused me to reflect, Joel. Like, what would be one for me? And I have a very clear one, which is if anybody in the bunch gets a little bit road ragey, because you will always encounter kind of douche canoe motorists.
Yep.
Always. And there'll always be people in the bunch that half wheel or don't quite have the same skills. But when you've got somebody that's like road ragey and yells and abuses cars and motorists and hits like that, to me, I'm done. I'm done with those people. They're out of my bunch.
I've got a couple of one that the UCI would really like is harassing another rider over their choice of clothes. I feel like the UCI has got that one in there.
What are they, the fashion police?
Apparently.
Well, except for triathlete socks, okay? Let's draw the line there.
Yes.
Let's draw the line there.
That was a pretty common theme, actually, like ankle socks were not popular. Sorry, triathletes.
Yeah,
but put on longer socks, please.
Inaccuracies in nose clearing. Is that up to there with the snot rockets that you referred to?
Yeah, I would say that's snot rockety. Yeah.
I love the wording. Inaccurate. Gloves on the table at the coffee shop. I love that. My dear, poor, lovely late mum would be all over that one. Hats and effects on the dinner table. Oh, it's just not on. Gloves on the table at the coffee shop. Where do you put them instead is a fair question, but find
Back
somewhere.
pocket
Stuff
maybe,
them
but
down
I
your
don't know.
pocket,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know if I've done that or not, but I've certainly never even noticed it to be a thing. So
This one I like.
I'll look out next time.
Spicy curry the night before. So this is the group ride in the peloton, in the formation, and you're right behind someone who's setting the pace, and all of a sudden, I've just lost my will to ride, if not my will to live. Okay, that's a good one.
That's pretty egregious because chamois absorb a lot.
Oh my God.
Anyway, sorry.
From experience. Now this is my favourite.
No.
This is my favourite. Not shouting coffees. There's
I'm
one
with
in
you.
every group. When you go to the bar or the cafe and it's their turn to shout, they mysteriously disappear. I remember having a dear mate, and we used to say he wouldn't shout if a shark bit him. And I think that applies very much in the paying of coffees with the group rides. Like, so sorry, guys, I've just got to take this very important call that happened to happen when we were just about to buy a round, but don't worry, I'll get the next one. And then that time comes, it's like, shit, I got to run. Oh, look at the time. See you next week. Kate is all I'll say.
I concur with that one. And actually, I did have a teammate who was known for this and would sometimes bring like a little baggie of coins and count out in 5 euro cent pieces what she thought her tab may be. Certainly, even if she got to the point where she paid for her own, she certainly never had a spare 5 euro cent coin for anybody else.
I wonder who that was.
Name and shame.
Yeah.
Name and shame. No, I'm kidding.
No, they had a nickname. The words tight ass were involved in the nickname, but I shall not name nor shame.
They shall not be named for now. We'll keep working on that.
Not for that one. I mean, for other things maybe, but not for that one.
Look, a lot of safety-related ones as well. Don't, reckless manoeuvre, deliberate brake check, that sort of thing. As you say, don't get involved in road rage. I think that's a big one. But a lot of these are sort of, don't go fast for the group. If you're part of a group, respect the group. That's good. And then I just want to quickly circle back on. Tell me about the intricacies of the chamois again, Kate.
Moving on.
We can move on.
Okay, It's the Wheelhouse podcast, and it is the off season. Can you tell? Now let's have a yarn about yarn to finish off proceedings this week. Now this is a potentially controversial one. Jan Ullrich, of course, the great German a documentary on the way, and apparently an absolute lid lift on some of the circumstances around his life and career, including doping, blood doping during his career, Kate.
Yes. Now, he was a legend of the sport. He won the Tour de France in 1997. He won 7 stages along the way. One of the most beautiful images that I had on my wall as a child was a photo of Jan Ullrich time trialing when he was riding for T-Mobile or Team Telecom it was back then. And he had this incredible barrel chest because he had this enormous VO2. And his time trial position was almost one of the OGs of really nailing the aerodynamics. And it was absolutely beautiful to watch him time trial. I say all of this, Joel, because I grew up in absolute awe of Jan Ullrich and his career. I love time trials as well. It was something I really identified with, and, I really revered him. I see his downfall as nothing short of quite tragic, I have to say. I mean, in lieu of anything else this week, sadly, I could say this is kind of our wheel of misfortune, because he came through an era that was dogged by doping and everybody knew about it, all of these issues. But not everybody on the other side of it is treated equally. And for Jan Ullrich, during his career, he was using not just performance enhancing drugs, but he was also using super addictive, what we call kind of social drugs, like cocaine and alcohol. And he used to use whiskey and cocaine, as he said, keep his heart cold and keep his heart rate under control. It's tragic because he turned into a drug addict and we nearly lost him to this earth. And it's only, ironically, Lance Armstrong's support that dragged him out of it. I just think it's tragic. And a lot of people just want to say, oh, well, you're doped, you deserve it. But I think that's too harsh a brush, I must say. I'm going to get trolled for that. And I don't even care. He's a human. And I think, it's a really tragic story.
It is. He is a human. It's a very difficult time for the sport. That taint is always going to be there. Of course it is. But this is hopefully a story of redemption as well. And hopefully that confession can lift a bit of a lid and I guess just inform people a little bit more as well. I'm not trying to justify anything and probably troll away as well, but the pressure, the expectation, the culture as well, and hearing someone who genuinely went that far down that path and toward that rock bottom to actually speak honestly about it. I'm a little bit curious about the timing of the revelations, obviously coming with the doco as well, and what was in it for him to sort of open up all these years later. I know that there's value in that. There's value for the sport moving forward as well, but it's also a chapter that's a quarter of a century plus old. So there is that argument of move on, let sleeping dogs and that sort of thing.
I don't know. People care though. I mean, I get shot down every time there's a doping story and I say, oh, does this need to go on the rundown? And generally, Joel, we don't like to just cover all of that sort of stuff because unless there's, a public interest in it, like the sport's kind of talked about it ad nauseum, right? But there's, I think, more interest and fascination in someone like Jan Ullrich because of how big the fall was and because of the undeniable quest that he was on for equal footing in an environment where a lot of his heroes, so he's younger than Lance Armstrong, he's, in between Armstrong and I generation wise. The people he looked up to were doping. And the genuine question from me is how much of that played into his decision making and how much of those bad ethical decisions are made without a robust backing of people in your life who are fact checking you and making you accountable and saying, don't do this, versus being surrounded by what then seems a little bit normal. But I think what it does highlight is not all of the athletes who have delved into this. And let's not go past the fact that most of the Aussies that were in the peloton at that time have either admitted to doping or being implicated. And a lot of them are championed in the Australian sport too. So let's not get high and mighty ethically about some, but not others. But it's the ongoing battle with addiction, I think, and the decline of the rest of his life that is, to me, really quite fascinating. Now, I understand what you say about the timing of the documentary and this announcement, but I did also read that he found the documentary really therapeutic, and that it allowed him to tell his truth, not just to, the world, but also to himself. And that was a lot of the underlying issues behind his recurring addiction problems. And so I think on a human level, I'm really interested in his story. I'm really fascinated in it. And it is, completely tragic, from watching him at the height of the sport and having him on my wall, to knowing this incredible downfall.
You have unanswered questions, and a lot of people will say that brought that dark culture at the time. We knew that everyone was swept up in that, especially riders that were obviously just trying to compete and realising that if you didn't, you were going to be left way, way behind. But I guess fronting up to that years later, Merksy, you have a thought on Jan?
Kate, I disagree. Like, end of the day, he's a cheat. And now he's making money from this doco out of cheating.
That's what I mean about the timing as well. Like that all these years later, and obviously well-publicised struggles as recently as, 2018, a few years ago. So that really, there's no other way to say it, but, a bit of scratch on offer.
Like, how did it make you feel?
I respect
How did it
that.
make you feel when your hero turned out to be a cheat? Like, that's what it comes down to.
I think, and I suppose where this is, it's not an ethical, clear line in terms of how you react to people and how you feel. Lance Armstrong, for example, I don't see him in the same light as I see perhaps one of the Australians who has a doping past. And that's a lot about their character and their behaviour and how they treated other people and why they made their decisions. And it is that complexity and understanding a bit more background that allows me to form a bit of my own view on where they fit on the scale of completely shit bloke, cheat, horrible person to, made bad decisions in a bad environment. But I do understand that a lot of people who follow the sport, and Merksy, you're spot on, ethically corrupt when it comes to his sporting career. But I am interested in everything around it, because I think that if we only have good stories on our screens about the success and we only see the high parts, we don't ever really understand why these decisions are made. And I think that's quite dangerous, because I think it leads to the next generation not really having their eyes open as to what the pressures are, what the situations are, where we can look out for danger. And I'll tell you a story that when this all first started breaking, now this really got me, the Jan Ullrich one, because I was riding at the time for T-Mobile, and that was the team that Jan Ullrich rode for. And T-Mobile had said, one more doping scandal and we are out. And that happened while I was riding for the team. And it wasn't a doping scandal in T-Mobile, by the way. They said in the sport.
Mm-hmm.
So it happened in the sport. T-Mobile pulled the pin. What it meant is that my teammates and I, riding around Germany training, were literally getting cans of soda and stuff thrown out the window at us. Like, there was so much hate towards cyclists because of everything that had unraveled. So at the time, it was quite personal to me. And we had a lot of pretty philosophical discussions at dinner tables with teams. Now, this is the way someone put it to me. They said, if you come from a country, a background, a socioeconomic status where you live in a house with 3 generations, you're unskilled, you are just trying, your cycling career, your athletic career is just trying to put food on the table and send your kids, the grandkids, to school, right? What is then the ethical discussion you're having in your house? Is it about doping, or is it about feeding your family?
Yeah.
Yeah,
that is massively
what about
oversimplifying
stealing,
it. But
can you steal? Like,
well,
where do you
no,
draw the
but that's
line?
what I'm saying. It massively oversimplifies it. But I think that kind of example, and it's a very philosophical one, is thinking about what leads to people making these decisions and what the pressures are. So not to say that it's not a terrible thing, not to say it's not ethically bankrupt, but just to put context around it. And I think that's also why Lance Armstrong is really so hated by a lot of people, is because it's not even the doping part that they hate him for. It's the way he treated people. It's the way that he perpetuated it, that he bullied others, that he put pressure on others to dope. And I don't think that we should put them all in the same basket.
Yeah, look, you had that personal sort of tainting with the brush, as you said, with cans of soda and whatnot being thrown at you. That sort of thing would stick with you for sure. I'm looking at as a fan as well, like all those years and all that success, and then it being a big fat lie. That's really hard to come to terms with as well. I think of the ball tampering scandal in Australian cricket. Is an example of this. We saw 3 cricketers involved. One was leading the show, who didn't really said, "Oh, just whatever, just do what you got to do to get the win." One was a senior player who was basically orchestrating and getting in there and apparently saying, "Come on, you got to do this for us." And the other one was a newcomer to the arena who was allegedly trying to fit in with his mates by doing it, by actually applying the sandpaper to the ball over in South Africa at Newlands. And the punishments varied wildly on that at the time, as did the public admonition of those involved. But I to this day, I'm sort of like, well, you were part of it. You could have said no. You could have turned around and said no. But look, the pressure you allude to is vast. We're not just talking about one team in one series. We're talking about basically an entire sport at a professional level being dragged through that mud. So I understand where you're coming from, but still.
I mean, I think things can exist in the same space. I think you can both make terrible, unethical decisions on the sporting field like these dopers did. But I think you can also be a decent person and a human. And I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. And that's why, to me, it's an interesting story, because I might watch the documentary and walk away going, wow, Jan Ullrich Sadushkanu. But I might walk away going, what a terrible decision. He essentially ruined his own life because of bad decisions he made. And that's a tragic story. So it's the kind of conversation you could have ad nauseum, right? Like again and again and again, because there's so many nuances to it. But I really respect both of your views on it as well. And I'm not an apologist. I'm pretty harsh on ethical violations.
Oh, you definitely are. No, absolutely. But your personal insight to this is fascinating. It really is, to have experienced that yourself. I'm also going to put my hand up and raise a little argument here for neurodivergence and the role that plays, and the fact that Jan found himself on the spiral that he did even after the blood doping. Let's be honest, up until as recently as 5 or 6 years ago. And that kind of personality, a lot of people don't understand I guess what leads you down roads like that, and that being in an environment where your brain just can't quite cope with all the noise, all the light, all the sound. So there's an argument for that personality type.
You're right.
Of course there is. There is so much nuance to this, as I think you've correctly said. But I think Merksy has a really good point as well. From a fan's point of view, you're just sitting there going, are you effing kidding me about it? Look, but at the end of the day, we're getting some clarity about it. The doco has the title The Hunted as well, which is, I think, says quite a bit as far as we often workshop doco titles here. That one, based on this discussion, is a pretty fitting one. It's available on German Amazon Prime. Merksy, you've subscribed us to that, I guess.
Oh, we'll be watching it together, don't worry.
Excellent. Yeah. And look, thank you for the discussion, guys. We welcome everyone's thoughts on this. We will watch the doco. We'll follow up at some point. But look, it's one of those topics, Catherine, as you say, we don't like to sit here and reopen those chapters, but sometimes there is a quest for answers, closure, resolution, that sort of thing. But one to look out for there, The Hunted.
The Hunted, yes.
Okay.
And a reminder, Joel, I'm sitting here in my Sydney bunker looking at that beautiful screen, that if you head to bikebug.com, Wheelhouse is the code. You can get 10% off. It wasn't just around the Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, but all the way continuing. So get on that. 10% off you'll get.
And there's heaps of cool Oakleys on there. I had a look. So look
there
out
are,
for your
yes.
Christmas stocking
Ho,
stuff.
ho, ho.
Are we going to auction off your Rio Oakleys at some point?
Oh, no, Joel, I've literally got another dozen far bolder designs in the attic somewhere. So I'll have to hunt them out. And yeah, maybe we can auction them off. I'm sure somebody.
The new ones are a lot cooler.
Okay.
They are.
I can't wait. Bring them in. Bikebug.com. Wheelhouse is the code. Remember that. And thank you for the team at Bikebug for being involved in the off season as well. It's you've taken a risk, and I'm we're enjoying working with you. We certainly are. And I got a real appreciation for weather presenters then, because I was trying to point to the bikebug.com thing on our video screen here, and I realised that I was covering the com part of the .com, and then I was pointing
Move
at the
that hand
wheelhouse
up,
and then the
yes.
ground. It's very, very difficult to do, but I found it there. There you go, bikebug.com. It's fine, sunny conditions through to the weekend at bikebug.com. Back to you, Kate.
As long as there's no more limericks, I don't think you'll need to apply for a job as a weatherman.
You know there'll
Joel,
definitely
so
be a
it's
limerick
safe for
next
now.
week because of the robust bands. No, I'm kidding. There won't be. No more limericks. This is the Wheelhouse Podcast. It's been a lot of fun, a very interesting, very insightful as always, Catherine. Thank you very much from the bunker that's not quite the bunker but is still a bunker.
Thank you from your bunker and the bunker within a bunker, Mercy.
Yeah, Merksy to the bunker inside the bunker. Always an absolute treat. It's good to see you. And can I just say quickly, if you're watching on, you'll see Merksy looks like DJ Merksy today. He's got the dark sunglasses on. He's got the cool hat, the black Wheelhouse shirt, and he's holding the mic. Like, mic drop, Merksy. Your fashion taste knows no bounds, sir.
It's all the dancing chat in the last couple of weeks. I'm really getting into it.
Yeah, I love that. I
Drop
saw
that
that
beat.
post of Remco 2 posing mid-dance, basically saying I've had a great fun dancing. Also getting out, knocking over some massive, massive bike rides. So it's not all about holidays.
Stilled on Fanta.
And doing it on Fanta.
Fanta.
And Pog as well, of course. I should say Pog doing the... Oh, I wish I could move like that. Anyway, we'll do it all again. It's the Wheelhouse Podcast. Like, share, subscribe, tell everyone you know. It's a lot of fun. And now thanks to bikebug.com. We'll see you next time.